News that impact. Johnny Vedmore on today's News Talk, TNT.
Welcome back to the Johnny Vedmore Show on today's News Talk TNT. My next guest is someone who has a really interesting show called Templar TV and talks to such guests as the infamous Ian Carroll and myself recently. He clearly has a way of getting people talking, and I was delighted to accept his request to have a conversation. Templar TV is an ex-personality and host of the show Hats Off with Templar TV. He is known for his engaging interviews with various personalities and his dedication to providing insightful content for his audience with growing following that includes some of the most influential individuals on X. Templar TV continues to connect with his viewers through thought-provoking discussions, and you can find him on X at Templar TV. That's TEMPLER TV. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, Johnny. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to make my debut with you.
Yeah, well, you're pretty awesome. We've already had quite a long chat, and it was a brilliant discussion. You have a really good way with yourself. I actually enjoyed your going on your show. One of my most favorite experiences. You really allowed me just to flow, and I had a really good time. So first off, why did you call your channel Templar TV, and what is it trying to achieve?
So actually, funny enough, I started calling my channel Templar TV back in like 2003, 2006, when I was actually a part of Blog TV. And I was just kind of starting the whole influencer life. And back then I was doing more of like a shock jock kind of show, you know, more like a Howard Sternish kind of a thing, prank calls, stuff like that. And I needed a name, a moniker that was going to be unique. And it was kind of like one of those, you build it, they will come, thus Templar. And then since I was on Blog TV, since then, my concept has changed, right? I've kind of moved away from just the shock jock comedy persona, and I've dove into more political commentary and political speech and activism. So that's why it's Templar TV.
Yeah. So in a world which is completely defined by those who censor, how do we change the paradigm, do you think, so that shows like ours can get further reach?
So I think it's exactly like what you're doing here in TNT, shows like mine, people like Ian Carroll. I think it's really a matter of networking with smaller voices, right? And unifying them. And I think it becomes harder to censor when the little guys group together, right? Because we have the ability to amplify each other's voices, even in the times where we are being deboosted the most, right? And I think and again, Ian Carroll's a great example of this, right? Because he'll find relatively unknown individuals and give them an opportunity to reach an audience, right? And that in and of itself does wonders, right? Like that opens the door to so many people. And the more of us that can do that and remove our egos and actually realize that it's not just about us, but it's about the message and it's about getting the word out there. The more we can do that, the better off we're going to be, because we got an up-road hill, my friend.
Yeah, the way you said that then made my eyes want to roll up into the back of my head, like it's almost, I will say the words, it's almost orgasmic, the idea that, you know, it's not about the I, and I talked about this very much, it's about the we at this point. We've all got to work together and we've all got to get each other's voices out. It's not about just one person on any of these platforms. We've really got to make it about teamwork. So who are the people you'd really like to speak to then?
So far I've been very fortunate, right? I think only 3 people that I've requested to interview have declined me, although there have been a couple who've not even answered. But I do have a list. If I could, I'd like to speak to, say, Alex Jones, Jimmy Dore, Dennis Miller, Joe Rogan, of course, Elon Musk. There's a lot I would love to talk to him about his platform. And then just kind of like a personal icing on the cake for me would be George Carlin's daughter, Kelly Carlin. And that's just because I'm such a huge fan of her father and the impact that he had on me.
Okay, right. So those are some big names, though. You're aiming for the big names up there, and it's hard up there. And I spoke to Alex Jones on one of the X spaces at the beginning of the year in January with the Epstein files, and the actual guys who were running the X spaces were messaging me, DMing me on Twitter and saying, you can interrupt Alex Jones whenever you like. And they were just using me to interrupt him because it's really hard to get him to speak. But I did find that one interesting thing, and just in case you ever get to speak to him, if you speak to him about things that are now, he'll be like, oh, they're babies and they grind them up and they're snotting the babies. And if you go back into the past, then he's suddenly really coherent and understands history and can explain the historical changes within, especially intelligence, infrastructure, and the government really well. It's very strange that I found, but he's a very interesting character. But you are aiming high now. Do you think that the introduction of AI on these large social media platforms such as Meta and X will benefit the conversation, or will they be used to shut down voices of people like you and I?
I'm glad you actually gave me the opportunity to actually answer a question like this, because as much as I enjoy and appreciate AI, I think it's going to be the main tool to shut everybody down. I think that it is going to be implemented to suppress people. It is not there to benefit us. And what AI is capable of in such a large scale, right? If in the future, I mean, much like now, right? The capabilities back in the 90s with systems like Carnival, right? Or Carnivore, right? They could listen to all your phone calls, monitor your emails, etc., right? And since then, it's just gotten better, right? Now we're at a point where if you try to upload a picture or you want to say a word on the internet, the AI can automatically flag that and prevent you from even getting it out or uploading it, right? So we're, again, at an uphill battle, especially with AI, trying to get our voices out there. I think it's one of the most draconian tools that we're going to have to face going forward. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that. Draconian is the right word. And it's very strange that futuristic technology, we would use such old language for it. It's very interesting. Now, the elections are coming up, obviously, the American elections. Will you be supporting anyone in particular? And do you hold out much hope for the current political system?
So I will be voting for Donald Trump first and foremost, right? I think he's a flawed man, but I agree with his politics overall. And as an American and a patriotic American, I feel like he is the America First candidate. So I'll be backing him. As far as do I find, uh, I I think the system's broken. I think whether Trump gets in office or not, the system's going to continue to deteriorate, and as all things do, they go from order to chaos and then back and assemble back to order. And I think we are in the breakdown, and it doesn't matter who gets into office. Things are so polarized that they're going to have to shatter in order to be rebuilt to unify.
Yeah, and what you talk about there, order to chaos, that's very Hegelianism, isn't it? It's that order and then the antithesis, chaos, and they merge together and synthesize, and then we start all over again. It's a cycle that we keep seeing repeated over and over again. Now, we see a lot of satanic symbolism and imagery being flaunted around everywhere at the moment. I mean, it's almost impossible not to scroll down your screen and see something. So, do you think it's a trend, or is there something more evil at play?
I personally, in my research on the subject, I believe that it's completely intentional. I believe that there are people and organizations and labels that actually believe that there's power in what they do, right? I mean, they actually perform rituals over records before they release them. The only reason they do that is because they believe that there's power and merit in doing that. If they did not, they would not, right? And so, yes, to answer your question, I absolutely think it's nefarious, in my opinion. And I think Vigilant Citizen did a great story on it, which I piggybacked. The 2006, I believe, VMAs with Taylor Swift's award. I think that was absolutely a ceremony, right? It had every aspect of one, and that's my opinion, of course, but that's the conclusion I've come to.
Yeah, yeah. I tend to agree. I find all of it a very interesting to watch, including like Charles III's official portrait in the blood red. I mean, it's pretty glaring nowadays. Now, going back to the presidential races happening this year, how do you feel about RFK Jr. and his campaign for the presidency?
You know, I'm kind of disappointed because I'm a John F. Kennedy guy. I'm a Robert Kennedy guy. RFK Jr., I feel like the apple fell way too far from the tree. Personally, I don't trust him. I don't think that he's honest and forthright. I think that there's a lot of discrepancies in his past, whether it be with Jeffrey Epstein or his stances on the vax. You know, one main thing that I point out is he's known to be anti-vax, but yet when the jab came, if you wanted to go to his birthday party, you had to jab up, right? So that kind of gives me something about his character. And unfortunately, I wanted to like Robert Kennedy Jr., but I do not trust him, unfortunately. And when I see him posed with a hard question, he always sidesteps it. And that's also concerning to me because if you're a legitimate individual, you're going to face the hard question, right? And he doesn't seem to want to do that. And there's only one reason for that. And I guess, you know, you guys can all figure that out.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on how he sidesteps questions and what he does to basically he states obvious fact about stuff as though that he's the one who's come up with it, you know, and people go, oh, he's speaking the truth, but he's just avoiding answering the actual question. He's saying something that everybody knows to be so and just states fact.
Yep.
Do you think Elon Musk saved X from censorship, or did he just introduce more complex and concise censorship regime?
I think he is the catalyst to bring about WeChat to the US. I think he's the spokesperson and the marketing agent. And then I think you have people like Linda and, you know, who are actually pushing the process. I think that's why you're going to see IDs on X. Don't get me wrong. I love X out of every online location or, you know, X has the most free speech, but it also has the ability to shut you down extremely fast and extremely easy. And I think that they're just building everybody into a box, and Elon is the soft sell. And again, that's why I would love to interview him and kind of understand his intentions.
So, why do people think? Why do you think people put so much faith in Elon Musk? Then is it just they're looking for the savior?
No, because much like, you know, a guy like Trump, Elon Musk comes off as the everyman, even though he's a billionaire, right? Like he memes, he communicates, he understands pop culture, right? So he can get down to your level and talk to you, right? And he does so much that is good. Elon is the guy that I want to believe, right? I want to believe that his intentions are good. I want to believe that Elon's looking out for me. Time says that's just not the case.
Yeah, that's true. Listen, thanks for coming on the Johnny Vedmore show today. I think we're going to have a fair few conversations in the future. Templar, you're the man. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Appreciate you, buddy.
Right, everybody. Thank you to everybody. Thanks to my guests, include Pastor Mark Burns, James Roguski, and Templar TV for being here. Thanks to always for everyone for tuning in, and a special shout out to the chatters. You're awesome for being interactive as always. Up next on TNT, as always, is the one and only Mark Morano show. So stay tuned because he is a beautiful man and I like him very much. And you've got to remember, my friends, stay safe, stay awake, don't go changing, and thanks for being with me on the Johnny Vedmore show. See you again tomorrow on today's News Talk.
To hear a replay of this hour, go to episodes at TNT.